Okay.
Right?
I want to go on the order of the week before Rosh Hashana and Rosh Hashana. Where we do the minhagim and things like that, some halachas also. If there's any questions that you have while I'm speaking, feel free to ask. First of all, this Motzei Shabbos is slichas. So the first slichas, minig Chabad, is we do it 1 o'clock in the morning, Chatzos time these days. The rest of the days, we do it early in the morning, a Shmeres HaBoker. Ideally, it's done still by night. Lately we do it, the Rebbe did it early in the morning when it's already light, but ideally it shouldn't be done, 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Although you could probably still say it then. But if you look at the slichas, we have slichas that says, no, I'm speaking in the early morning. So I don't know what.
It's all relative.
It's all relative, yeah. It's best to stand during the slichas. Somebody that can't should at least stand during the Kel Melech Yoshev. If you look at the slichas, there's right before we say Hashem Hashem, we say a paragraph Kel Melech Yoshev. So you should stand at least there by Hashem Hashem Hashem, and also later by Vidar. When we say Yashamnu, we say Tachnon at the end of slichas. You should stand. Somebody is saying slichas by himself. So he doesn't say Hashem Hashem, Hashem Hashem Kol Racham V'Chanan. The whole discussion, there are a lot of people that say that he could say Hashem Hashem if he says it as if he's reading it from the Chumash with the Tzrap. In other words, if you open up a Chumash in Parshas Kisisa and you just read it like you're reading a pasuk, you're allowed to. There's still those that claim that Al-Pi Kabbalah you shouldn't. It's not so clear. And here, Shvach HaMoedim brings that you could do it. But another interesting thing is at the end of the slichas, there's a few paragraphs in Aramaic. It's Machei Umasei, Morin Vishmaya. You can notice already in the change, even if you don't understand Aramaic, it's easy to tell where you're switching from Hebrew to Aramaic. So those paragraphs, somebody that's saying slichas by himself should not say. Just skip those paragraphs. Erev Rosh Hashana, slichas is longer than usual. Just keep that in mind for any, scheduling of events. It's about twice as long at Rosh Hashana. However, by Shachris we don't say Tachnun. At Rosh Hashana we don't say Tachnun by Shachris. By Mincha we say Osanat. We don't blow the shofar in Erev Rosh Hashana. If a person needs to prepare for Rosh Hashana, he should do it in a closed room. Nobody should hear. Now, Hataras Nedarim. After the davening, we do Hataras Nedarim at Rosh Hashana. What is Hataras Nedarim? Hataras Nedarim was annulling any vows that we took in the previous year. Then the second thing that we say, we're making a meidah, we're making ahead of time, we're making an announcement that any vow that we'll take for the coming year should be nullified. Now, it's important to underline that it's not so simple. Now that the person can't say, I said Hataras Nedarim, so any neder that I made, this batel and vutel, doesn't exist. We only rely on it in the time of B'tzerach Gadol and the great need, and it would depend, there's not a number of details, whether he remembered that Hataras Nedarim that he said when he made the oath or he didn't. But any time a person made a neder, he should go, there's a way how you matter a neder, how we annul a vow by going to a Rav, and the Rav takes 2 people with him, there's a way how to do it. Any neder that a person took upon himself, he should go to a Rav and take care of it properly. But we say in the Hataras Nedarim, one of the things that we say is that in case I did any mitzvah or any good hanhaga toiv, any good thing that I did 3 times, and I didn't say that it should be b'li neder. You have an halacha, it's very interesting if a person did something for 3 times, he decided, say, whatever, I'll do something good, and he did it 3 times straight, even if he didn't have a mind that he'll always keep on doing it, it could be considered like a neder, as if he made a vow to do it. Or if a person decided to do something always, and he only did it once, but since his intention was to always do it, Al-Pi Halach is considered a neder. So poskim write that for these types of things, if you didn't really make a vow, just you did something 3 times, a mitzvah you did 3 times, and you didn't say b'li neder, or if you plan to always do it and you only did it once, which is also could be considered a neder. So for these things, Hataras Nedarim would work. It's still best to go to a Rav if anybody has any particular, chumrah that he has. Let's say, to give you a stupid example, for Pesach, certain people don't eat certain things. For whatever reason, a person wants to annul that, he shouldn't rely on that Hataras Nedarim that he said on Erev Rosh Hashanah, but he should go to a Rav and do it properly, because It's the way how to do it properly, the way it's explained in Shulchan Aruch. So Hataras and Darim works for certain things. It definitely works that in case a person does violate an oath, he won't get punished because, but the Yavid, in the case of a Tzedach Gadol for a great need, we could rely on the Hataras and Darim. But Poskim struggle to understand exactly how much it helps, when it helps. So it shouldn't just be taken as a blanket, blanket coverage, insurance for any neder you'll do during the year. Hataras and Darim, the Alter Rebbe writes in the Siddur, should be done before Chatzos, before midday, and it's good that there should be a minyan of people that do the Hataras and Darim. It seems that most of this is more based in Kabbalah and Halacha. In Halacha, you could find reasons why you need 10, but usually in Halacha you need 3 people to be Matra and Neder. The Alter Rebbe writes it's best it should be Eidah Shleim. The Rebbe gives a Sicha, in the Sicha, the Rebbe, in Kutei Sichas, the Rebbe explains the reason according to Chassidus for this. Try to do it before Chatzos. If you can't do it before Chatzos, you can do it afterwards. If you didn't do Hataras and Darim before Rosh Hashana, you could do it during the Aseres Yemei Tshuva until Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur, you anyway say Kol Nidri. Kol Nidri, which we say Yom Kippur by night, is in essence the same concept as Hataras and Darim. So why do we say it twice? Once before Rosh Hashanah, once before Yom Kippur? A lot of it seems that has to do with Kabbalistic reasons as well. Whatever it is, certain inyanim that the Hataras and Darim helps for. But until Yom Kippur, you could definitely get 10 guys together. If you don't have 10 guys, at least get 3 guys. It's best if they should sit. For Makbid, that they should sit when they do Hataras and Darim. The one that says that Hataras and Darim should stand. Now, one very important thing is you have to understand what you're saying. If you don't, it's not like you're saying Tillim. You're not asking. You're not. What you call saying saying some type of abracadabra to take away something. You have to understand what you're saying. You're trying to say that any vow that I'm making should be nullified, and from now on, I'm making disclaimer for any vow that I would take. So you could say it in English. If you don't like people are embarrassed saying it in English, at least read it beforehand in English, so you should have an idea of what you're going to be saying and understanding what is going on over here. It's customary to go to the oil. We'd always give a pan to the Rebbe, and anyway, they would go to the oil net of Rosh Hashanah. It's one of the times, particularly on Pik Kabbalah, to go to the oil. We shouldn't wait until Erev Yom Kippur to make amends with any friends. Erev Rosh Hashanah is not a bad time to do it. And already the Avodah starts from before Mincha Erev Rosh Hashanah. You see the letters of the Frierdiker Rebbe regarding saying Tillim and the whole series of Avodah of Rosh Hashanah, not wasting time and so on. Already starts from some time before Mincha. Time people usually end up davening Minchas, sometimes late, but should try to spend the day in good deeds. Another thing that's brought on that based in the Rebbe Rashab and other sikhs that's brought on that a person should accept upon himself a new hidur, a new additional hidur mitzvah every Rosh Hashanah. It actually says that people ask, how come Rosh Hashanah passes, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, everything Tishrei passed, it flew by, and now they don't feel they gained anything from it. So it says you have to take something, you have to take at least one hidur, take one achlata teva that you should have something to hold on to, and that will be the recipient, the vessel to take with all the things from Tishrei. So one hidur doesn't. The other place it says a hidur in a mitzvah, a extra zehira, say extra carefulness, in not doing something negative, not doing an aveda, and also in a midas tevus, in good manners between one person and his friend. Now this year is. The Yom Tov goes straight into Shabbos. We need to make Erev Tavshilin, but I want to speak about it next week because Erev Tavshilin I want to spend a little bit of more time on. So we'll speak about it next week. You light candles. Minik Chabad is we have a bracha nobody else says when we light candles on Rosh Hashanah. Everybody says the regular bracha you make for lighting candles on Yom Tov, not allowed to Knei Shel Yom Tov. We say Shel Yom HaZikaron, the day of remembrance, and we say Shechianu as well. If a woman is making Kiddush, there's no man in the house, a woman is making Kiddush, she has to be careful not to say Shechianu again if she already said it when she lit candles. The second night, when we light candles, we have a new fruit. We'll speak about it a little bit later as well. We have a new fruit that those that make Kiddush, we have a new fruit during Kiddush. A woman that makes Shechianu by Lichbenching also should try to have a new fruit. She's not going to eat it then, you can't eat it then, but she should have a new fruit by her when she should see it when she makes Shechianu. Mincha is brought on in Sfarim that you try to daven with more concentration, a bit more lengthily. It's the last tefillah of the year. Frierdiker Rebbe very much emphasized the importance of saying Tillim during Rosh Hashanah as much as possible, starting already from before Mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah until Ma'ariv Motzei Rosh Hashanah, to say Tillim as much as possible, to be careful not to speak, things that are not necessary, and to be minimizing sleeping. We'll speak about that also. Another thing he says, Frierdiker Rebbe wrote letters that people shouldn't smoke on Rosh Hashanah. Smoking on Yom Tov is questionable. A lot of people rely that they smoke on Yom Tov, but Rosh Hashanah, because of the seriousness of the day, not to smoke. Now, Ma'ariv Rosh Hashanah. Minik Chabad, as we say Tillim, the Rebbe, when he would come into Shul, he would say Tillim first for some time before he davened Ma'ariv. Now, right away when you come to Shemoneh Esrei, you already have all the changes that we have in the Shemoneh Esrei, in Rosh Hashanah, and during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, is right away there. First of all, the main changes is you have from Okel HaKodesh to HaMelech HaKodesh, which that's the thing that's the most ma'akev, the thing that will, other things you would be able to, if you made a mistake, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but the HaMelech HaKodesh, according to everybody, would have to go back. You said Okel HaKodesh. You have the Chreinu L'chaim, you have Micha, the things that we add. Now, Rosh Hashanah by night, most people are not going to forget and say Hakel HaKadosh, because there's a whole addition that we have, that we say, the whole bracha of the third bracha of Ata Kadosh is very long, and nobody's going to finish off Hakel HaKadosh, because nobody's used to saying this whole long bracha, and so that they're just going to read the machzor, they'll say what it says. But there's other things, these things, once you already said Hashem's name at the end of the bracha, you don't go back. So, the first bracha we ask Achreinu L'chaim. Said Baruch Atah Hashem, even though he didn't say it Mogen Avram, he said Hashem's name, you just continue. You don't have to go back. If you didn't say Hashem's name yet, to say it there, and you say it at the end of the bracha, wherever you remember, then you just say Baruch Atah Hashem. We've seen the machzor, we say Kapitel Tillim, David Mizmor, after Ma'ariv, we bless each other, Shana Tev Tikasim, say Chasim, says that the Malachim are waiting on the Rabbi Marash, thinks that the Malachim wait on Rosh Hashanah to hear a good word that a Jew says about his friend. So, shouldn't just say Shana Tev Tikasim, say Chasim, Shemin. If a person made a mistake and said, okay, we'll get to this later, it's really, I'll do it now, it's relevant more to after Rosh Hashanah, to the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, as in Rosh Hashanah it's a bit unlikely to make these mistakes, but things like this, if during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva somebody said Okel HaKadosh instead of HaMelech HaKadosh, so if he corrected himself right away, within the amount of time it takes it to say 3 words, Shalom Alech Rebbe, so then he right away could say HaMelech HaKadosh. What happens if he corrected it after that, or if he already started even the first word of the next bracha, he has to go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei. If he doesn't know what he said, most likely he said what he's used to saying the whole year, which is Okel HaKadosh, so he also has to go back. During the weekday Shemoneh...
Is it the first time or it's every time?
During the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, all 10 days. In the bracha of Malachai Tzedakah Mishpat, makes no difference. Even if you started the first word of the next bracha, let's say Ata Chayin, during the weekday the next bracha is Ata Chayin, you just said the word Ata. So you already started the next bracha, you can't correct it, you have to go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei. Somebody said just the word Hakel, and then he realized right away, so even if he spent some time, but if he could correct that, as long as he didn't say it Hakel HaKadosh, it's fine. During the weekday Shemoneh Esrei, you don't have a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, but during the weekday we have Melachai Tzedakah Mishpat. Now, Bracha Shiva Sheftenu Kvarishena, we finish off Melachai Tzedakah Mishpat. During the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, we finish off HaMelech HaMishpat. If somebody forgot, and he did it the wrong way, so if he remembers Teich Kedei Dibur right in the amount of time it takes to say the 3 words Shalom Alech Rebbe, he could correct it. If he didn't remind himself right away, or if he already started the next bracha, even just one word of the next bracha, what should he do? So there's a machlokes whether he has to go back or not. Some opinions say he said HaMelech. Well, every day of the year we say Melech Tzedakah Mishpat. We mention the idea of kingdom. So even though he didn't say the way we say Aseret Yimei Tshuva HaMelech HaMishpat, but nevertheless he said Melech, it's fine. Other people say no. Other people say there's a big difference the way we say it the whole year than the way we say it in Aseret Yimei Tshuva. The whole year we say Melech oyev tzedakah mishpat. He loves tzedakah, righteousness, charity, and judgment. The main thing that comes is tzedakah. That comes first. I said this in Meishuv, we say hamelech hamishpat. The main attribute that's dominant is judgment. So therefore, he said it wrong. So what the Rebbe writes is, because there's an argument, to just continue davening. It would be best that he should daven Shemoneh Esrei again after he finishes the Teiras Nedavah. He should have in mind that if he's not obligated to do it, it should be what we call a Tfilas Nedavah, a voluntary prayer. So what's going to end up happening is, Api Allah, he doesn't have to go back. And since Api Allah, since there's an argument, he doesn't have to go back. So he should just finish Shemoneh Esrei. But then it would be best, it's not a chiyuv, it's not an obligation, it's best for him not to daven another Shemoneh Esrei as in a daven. Now, I don't think this will make a difference whether it's Ma'ariv, Shachris, and Mincha, any Shemoneh Esrei, I assume the same thing would be. There's a certain minhagim you all see by Chazaras Hashatz, everybody says out loud, Ch'seiv l'chaim tevim kol bnei v'yisecha. Sefer Chaim, Bracha v'Shalom, the last edition we say, at the end of Sim Shalom. See, Minyanim, they all do it.
Why don't we do the first part?
The Rebbe speaks about it.
Because the Pele should do, or the Vel does.
The Rebbe says that Zachrenu l'chaim is only when people daven the Shtila Shemoneh Esrei. So we already said of Ch'seiv l'chaim tovim. Ch'seiv l'chaim tovim is we're asking Hashem for good life. So Zachrenu l'chaim is just asking Hashem for life. So we've already said for good life, we don't want to say again something which is less. And Micha Moicha, the thing that we say, Micha Moicha v'Rachman, is not a request, it's just a prayer. It's saying, who's like you, Hashem, the Father of mercy, that remembers everybody, for mercy, for life. So it's not a request, so we don't say that, there's no reason why the Tzibur should say it again out loud. Okay, another thing is Oisa HaShalom. You see in the Sidurim, in Kaddish, whatever we say, instead of Oisa Shalom, we add a hey, Oisa HaShalom. In benching, famous Sikha, the Rebbe said that he asked a few the Rebbe once, at Rosh Hashanah, in benching, at the end of benching, say Oisa Shalom Imreim, Oisa Shalom Aleinu. So do we say Oisa HaShalom? So the Frierdiker Rebbe told him, say the way it says in the Siddur. It doesn't say HaShalom, just say the way it says in the Siddur. Now, foods that we eat in Rosh Hashanah. If you look in Shulchan Aruch, there's a number of different foods that are brought down. By the Sfardim, by other communities, there's a whole menu. Different kihlas, different communities have all different types of things. And each person, whatever his minig is, that's what he should do. The things in Shulchan Aruch that are mentioned, certain things, there's leek and the beets, carrots, and there's kra, some type of like cucumber, pumpkin, that family. Gourd, I don't know how you call it in English, gourd. And you have fenugreek, a type of different things, and there's so the different things that are brought in Shulchan Aruch, and all of these things is some type of yihiratz, and the name of the thing is connected with let's say karti, which is leek. So you say yichrusu seinenu. Word karti, it's not the word yichrusu. They should be cut off. Our enemy should be cut off. So the yihiratz and certain tefillah we say connected with a lot of these things. In addition, certain things that why do we eat carrots in Rosh Hashanah? Carrots in Yiddish are called meren. Meren also means, like in Yiddish, the word mer, more, to multiply. So it's a good sign to multiply, so we eat carrots. Now, many Chabadis, we don't say, the only hiratzin we say is the hiratzin on the apple. We don't say the other hiratzins. So, as far as I know, I don't know what people do, but as far as I understand, we're not so medayik to eat all these things that say in Shulchan Aruch. Those things that we do have is definitely apple and honey. Pomegranates.
Do you eat that before the Hashana?
So the first night you wash, you make kiddush, you wash, you dip the hamoitzi in honey. The Rebbe would also dip a piece of hamoitzi in salt. Besides dipping in honey, he would also dip in salt. That was what the Rebbe and other people did. You make then, after you start, at the beginning of the meal, before you eat anything else, you eat the apple dipped in honey. It says it's supposed to be a sweet apple. It's good, keep in mind, part of the sweetness is not just the honey, but it's also the apple. So you want the apple itself to be a sweet apple, and the Rebbe, they say it, it's what it's written, the Rebbe would cut a piece, make a bracha, he would dip it in honey, make a bracha, And with many Chabadists, what's interesting is that we say the Yehi Ratzon between the bracha and eating it. A lot of people, they say that it's a hefsek. They make a bracha al ha'etz, and then they eat it, and then they say the Yehi Ratzon. Should have a good and sweet year. After you eat the apple, then you eat the other things. What are the other things that we eat? Pomegranates is mini Chabad, I've seen people eat. Fish. There's two things, there's fish and a head. A head, really, it's best to have the head of a ram, because of the Akedah Yitzchak, the ram that, Avram brought a ram instead of Yitzchak. Or if you can't have a ram, use the head of a sheep. If you don't have that, you can use any head. So we use the head of a fish to say the Rebbe would eat the eyeballs. That's what they say. But ain't a pekicha. Ain't a pekicha. So after we fish in itself is also a good sign, because fish multiply. A head separately is a good sign. We should be a head. We shouldn't be a tail. Tziddim say shenia lidoish. That's the lashon that people say. We should be to the head. We should be connected to the Rebbe, which is the head. But those are more or less the things that the other people, carrots, there are certain things, again, every different mishpachas have different minhagim. I don't think Minei Chabad is, a lot of the other things I mentioned in Shulchan Aruch, like leek and beets and other things, I don't think we eat. One interesting thing, there's a bit of, what comes out is like this. First of all, one of the things that we eat is pomegranates. Pomegranates, Allah is, if a person has in front of him pomegranates and apple, which one does he have to make first? He has to make the bracha first in the pomegranate. On Rosh, Shivas Amin, it's one of the 7 species that Eretz Yisrael was praised with. On Rosh Hashana, the Rebbe writes clearly that we make first on the apple, even if you have pomegranates in front of you. But it's important to have in mind that the body creates that you say should go on the other fruit, even if they're not there in front of you. They say even the kampot, at the end of the meal, they used to serve by the Rebbeim, some type of mixed fruit, whatever it is. So the Rebbe would leave a piece of the apple to eat it together before the kampot. When we make the body creates, have in mind all the fruit in order to avoid halachic problems. Have in mind all the fruit to eat during the meal. But
just quickly, on the second night, you eat the fruit before
Hametzi, yeah.
And then after Hametzi, you still dip in the apple, right?
No, the second night we don't do any of this. Some people do, but I don't think it's Minei Chabad. If you want, you could do it, but it's not. I don't think we're medayik to do it the second night.
And when do we do that?
Only the first night. All these things that we eat for a good simon, I think Minei Chabad is only the first night. The second night, we start the Shechianu, we eat a new fruit. There's nothing to do with the pomegranate and all that.
What about Shechianu? Is that a seasonal thing?
Shechianu, I was about to get to that. What is Shechianu? Shechianu today, any fruit today that you get in most stores on a daily basis,
You get them all year round.
You get them all year round. So what are you making Shechianu? So years ago you were able to get this, whatever, you make a Shechianu. Today you get it all year round. To get pomegranates all year round becomes a problem about making Shechianu. But if you don't, I don't know, depends where you are, when you are. If it's a seasonal thing, so you could if it's a seasonal thing and you only get it in your place, once or twice a year, you can make Shechianu. But the second night, anyway, even if you don't have a new fruit, anyway, make Shechianu. So you don't have to be so medayik if you mamish api Allah, you have to make Shechianu, because if worst comes to worst, you would anyway make a Shechianu. You're just trying that the Shechianu shouldn't be any halachic problem, so you try it should be a new fruit as well.
But is it a calendar year that you can't make a Shechianu? Because I had pomegranates during the year.
Today, in most stores you get pomegranate seeds in Russia. Right, and you go to these health stores, you get pomegranate seeds. So technically you can get them all year round.
But either way, you still make a Shechianu Kiddush in the second night, even if you have no fruit.
You would anyway, the halach is, but you would anyway make Shechianu. But we try, the second night comes a Shiloh, do we make Shechianu? Don't make Shechianu, so we try in order to be Yotzei L'chol Hadays to have a new fruit. The same with the things that we do, there's certain things we don't eat. We don't eat bitter things, like vinegar or chrein, things like that. We don't eat.
Garlic.
Huh?
Garlic.
Garlic, I see the discussion here he brings down. Whether we eat garlic or not.
This is until Hashana Rabbah.
Some people are makpid until Hashana Rabbah. Some people say some people don't eat garlic. Some people are mocked with all these things until Hashana Rabba, even later until Shabbos Bereishis is different than hugging it. But with Shulchan Aruch is speaking just about Rosh Hashana. So there's horseradish and vinegar. Then there's those people. If somebody told me that his father's makbah that even mayonnaise or other things that have vinegar inside of them, he wouldn't eat it. Whatever. I mean, it depends on the meaning. In Shulchan Aruch, if you don't taste the bitterness, I don't know if you have to be medayik, but I'm saying there's different things that people it says things that are sharp like pepper or something else. The stress here is on things that are bitter or sour. Anyway, another thing is we don't eat nuts. Nuts or semichka, sunflower seeds, these things we don't eat for two reasons. One is because it causes a lot of saliva, which stops us from davening. The second thing is that it's also the word egois has the same, which means nut, has the same numerical value as the word chet, sin. So other people I see here they don't eat beans, kidneys, different types of beans they don't eat. Nada pashte, and every place according to their minig. The second night, like we already mentioned, we have a new fruit. When you say shechyonu on kiddush, you should look at the new fruit. Women should have the new fruit ready when they eat ben shlicht. Now obviously they don't make shechyonu again by kiddush if they're making kiddush. We eat the new fruit right away. Before we wash, we eat the new fruit. And our minig chabad is to eat a shear. Make sure to at least eat a amount. You have to make a bracha achrona. Again, we already discussed once a shear of a kazayas is not too big. I mean, a 1 ounce shot glass is a kazayas. So if you eat, imagine the fruit you're eating would fit into that. Most times it would fit into that berevach. So we'd make we make medayik to eat a shear and make a bracha achrona. We'll make the bracha achrona. We don't make the bracha achrona on the wine. We don't make al hagefen on the wine of kiddush. Because the wine of kiddush you don't have to make after bracha because it's connected with the meal. But the new fruit, we eat a shear, make a bracha achrona on the new fruit, whatever it is, if it's al ha'etz, if it's one of the 7 kinds, but you have to say the 7 kinds that Yisrael was blessed with. So you say al ha'etz.
Again, Yehiratzon.
Yehiratzon. There's no Yehiratzon. There's no Yehiratzon on the new fruit. The first fruit, the new fruit is not. There's no Yehiratzon we say in the new fruit. You say ha'etz and you eat it. Yeah, it's important. Another thing is, particularly for a chazan, but it really applies to everybody, to know during Rosh and Yom Kippur you have all these piyutim that we say. So it sounds nice, but it's important that we should understand what we're saying. So some people, chazan definitely has to learn it. I mean, I don't know. Particularly a chazan definitely has to, but I mean, the same with the chazan has to daven. Everybody has to daven. So a person should review it at least minimal that a person should have an English master, and he should, as he's saying it, he should look in the English and understand what he's saying. I mean, at the minimum, it would be best before Rosh Hashanah to review and to look over. At any rate, regarding eating before Tkiyah Shofar, now there's a whole discussion about this. The thing is, those that are able to, those that are, in other words, there's an Indian that's brought down not to eat before Tkiyah Shofar, not to eat or drink before Tkiyah Shofar. You have to take in mind that davening in Rosh Hashanah ends very late. It's not everybody's able to not eat and drink. So those that are able to, definitely is the Indian not to. Drinking mikra din is mutter. If you're not drinking any liquid that's alcoholic beverages, anything that makes you drunk, you could drink in the morning. So if you want to drink a nourishing drink, if you need to, you could. If even that won't help, so you could eat as long as you don't. If you eat things that are not mezainis or hamoitzi, or even if you eat mezainis but you eat less than an egg, I mean it's quite difficult to usually eat mezainis less than the size of an egg. But no, to eat things that are not mezainis, so then you have then again those. I'm just saying different levels, for people that can't hack it. So to eat things, if you're drinking coffee, whatever it is in the morning, wouldn't be substantial. To eat things that are not mezainis, and that already you could eat. That wouldn't be an exact amount of what how much you could eat, because as long as it's not mezainis, it's not a problem. Now, if that itself is not good enough, and you need to eat mezainis, whatever it is, you could do that. But the question is, maybe it's better for such a person that he should hear shofar first. So there were those that Taka would hear shofar, some they would blow shofar early in the morning before they ate. The problem is that the first 3 hours into the day, It's brought down one should not blow shofar by himself if he's not doing it with a minion. The first 3 hours of the day is more a time of judgment, whatever it is. So the first, in other words, early in the morning, the base until the time of Seizman Krishma, shouldn't blow shofar for individual, unless he won't be able to hear it later. It's not an isser, but it's something that we're careful about.